Hi guys, in this video I'm going to explain how to do lab number 2. Now just so you know, the first step I did is I actually zoomed out because I want to make sure that everything will fit. If you want to do that, you can use Control minus, or you can just go to zoom of your browser and just, as you can see when I hover over it says Control minus. Just made it a little bit smaller so that when I take a screenshot I can just copy paste it directly into my reply. All right. In this question, what we want is look at normal distribution and study its properties. I will take another normal distribution, not the one that's here. And I do that by clicking on the plus sign, going to inference, and then clicking on probability distribution. Now, over here, you're going to put your mean and standard deviation. I am going to choose a different one. And let's say I'm going to choose 82, and let's say my standard deviation is 11. I'm going to click Create Distribution. I want to shade the portion of the curve that is within one standard deviation from the mean. To do that, you want to open the cumulative probability menu, and you need to figure out which bounds would be one standard deviation away. Well, Desmos is actually very nice. It actually already fills them for you by default, but you should know how to do that. You start with your mean and subtract standard deviation. That gives you 71. That's your lower bound. Now take your mean and add standard deviation. That gives you 83. That's the upper bound. Sorry, what is it? 11, 93. I'm sorry. Okay, so now what I see is the portion of the curve within one standard deviation is shaded, and I can see the answer right here. Next, I'm going to just go ahead and delete these and add another graph. Do not change anything here. Add a new graph, because you want everything on the same graph. So you're going to click on the plus sign. Again, you're going to go to inference. Again, probability distributions. You're going to put exactly the same mean and standard deviation as whatever you have. And then again, you open cumulative probability menu, but this time you want two standard deviations. So what do? You start with the mean, which for me is 82, minus 2 multiplied by my standard deviation. That's 11. That's the bound I put over here. So that's going to be 60. The other one is going to be the same, but plus. That's going to be 104. Okay, so that's two standard deviations. You can see that they're overlapping, but you can still see the old area that was one standard deviation and the new addition, another extra standard deviation on both sides. Okay, finally, the last one we need, let me close out of this, is again go to the plus sign. I want to do everything on the same graph. Go to inference. Go to probability distribution, use the same mean and standard deviation as before, but this time, again, open cumulative probability. We want to show 3 standard deviations. So what is that? Start with the mean, subtract 3, multiply that by 11, okay, by standard deviation. That's 49. Then you do exactly the same thing, but add. So that'll be 115. So you can see how the darker area is the one standard deviation inside, then you have 2, and then you have 3, pretty much covering almost the whole plot. Okay, now we are ready to answer, except we also need to find the z-score and answer if it's an outlier. Let's say you have an observation, let's say 95. Is that an outlier? Okay, so look at whatever you have, depending on your version. Right, so I am going to find 95. What is its z-score? To do that, I'm going to click on division. And then on the top, I'm going to start with the number I'm trying to find the z-score of, subtract the mean, and divide by standard deviation. Okay, I just mistyped the mean. Okay, so I've got 1.18. Now, how do I know if this number is an outlier? If it is between -2 and 2, it's not an outlier. But if it's 2 or higher, or -2 or lower, then it is. Well, how do I know whether 1.18 is or isn't? I open the calculator in a separate tab, and I'm just going to have 1.18 graphed. So I put 1.18, 0. And what that does is it graphs it for me on the number line. Why 0? Because I just want it to be on the x-axis. The y coordinate doesn't matter. When I get close to it, I can see that 1.18 is not larger than 2. So if this was larger than 2, it would be over here somewhere. And that means it's not an outlier. For example, if you had something like 2.14 and 0, then yeah, that would be more than 2. That would be an outlier. Or if you had something like negative 2.30, that would be to the left of negative 2, right? You can see that. That would have been an outlier. But anything between negative 2 and positive 2 is not an outlier. So my answer is not. Okay. I am going to go ahead and take a screenshot of that. Let's see if I can actually fit it in. It looks like I might have to zoom, but you also want to make sure that when you're taking a screenshot, just take the whole screen because it's a lot of stuff here. And let me use the snipping tool. Let me click on new and just select basically my whole screen because everything has to be selected. Okay, so I selected that. I want to copy paste. If you're having any trouble copying and pasting into your response, which sometimes happens, I would suggest just saving the file and then attaching it, okay? But I'm going to see if the copy paste will work. I will click on copy. Then I am going to go back to my Desmos over here, my discussion, and I'm going to click reply and see if I can paste it inside. If this doesn't work, again, what you would do is just click on attach and attach it as a file. Okay, like over here. But it actually copy pasted, so I'm fine. The only thing it doesn't like is the accessibility. I will need to change this to something like Desmos Lab to submission. Whatever. Apply. Okay, so it's fine. And then I have to answer the questions. So what are the questions? The questions say, so let's start with question number 4. I need to say what percentage of the area is within one standard deviation. So I can look at my picture. Actually, it's probably easier to look over here. The percentage of the area within one standard deviation is given by 0.683. It's right here, but you need to multiply it by 100. So that's going to be 68.3. Okay, I will say 68.3% of the area is within one standard deviation from the mean. Now I want to look at two standard deviations, which, by the way, according to an empirical rule, would be the same for everyone. This looks like it's 0.954, so when I multiply it by 100, that will be 95.4% of the area is within two standard deviations from the mean. And finally, the last one is three standard deviations. If you look over here, that's 99.7. So that's going to be 99.7% of the area. And we did see that it looked like it was like the whole thing. 99.7% of the area is within three standard deviations from the mean. The last thing I need to do is answer question 5. And question 5 was just to say, okay, is this an outlier? So I'm going to say a z-score equal to 1.18. And it is not an outlier because it is between -2 and +2. So you always want to explain why you think it's not or it is. So if your answer was greater than 2, you would say, yes, it is an outlier because it's greater than 2. Or if it was less than -2, you would also say that. But for me, it is not. And at this point, you just hit reply and you're done.